the fourth event of the Faith, Film, and Philosophy series of 2023. We've had a very busy week so far. Our topic for the series is multiverses and alternate realities, other worlds in film. I'm David Calhoun, the director of the Gonzaga Faith and Reason Institute, which has organized this series and is putting it on. The Institute is dedicated to developing an integrationist understanding of faith and reason, particularly as articulated in the Catholic intellectual tradition. The Institute does this in several main areas. First, science, nature, and the philosophical theology, both historically and in the present. Secondly, philosophical reflection on the existence and nature of God. Third, attention to the problem of evil and suffering. And fourth, the cultural and social impact of Christianity. The present series on faith, film, and philosophy is an instance of the last of these emphases, attending to the cultural place of Christian ideas as they appear in popular culture, or as they provide a lens for examining critically popular culture. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the friends and donors whose support makes events supported by the Institute possible. The Institute is generously supported by the Father Robert J. Spitzer Society of Jesus Leadership Fund, which was created when Father Robert Spitzer retired as Gonzaga's president in 2009. A great number of friends of Father Spitzer and of Gonzaga more generally have contributed to this fund over the years. The Institute is deeply grateful for their support and indebted to all of them for the gifts that make events like tonight's talk possible. I also want to, this is not on my script, but I also want to thank Carter Bushy, who is the assistant of the Gonzaga Faith and Reason Institute. And I could tell you a lot of stories, but Carter's really helped enormously in the past week in making the events that have happened and will continue tomorrow night occur. So thanks to, I'm going to say, give Carter a hand, please. And secondly, I want to welcome, there's a group of scholars here that has just been gathering today. In addition to the series of public events that constitute the Faith, Film, and Philosophy series, there's also a seminar of scholars who are sharing their work on philosophy and film, and we'll be meeting tomorrow and Saturday. So I'm wondering, who are any of those folks here? I know some of them are here. So special welcome to the Faith, Film, Philosophy seminar, folks. Glad you're here. The idea of multiple universes existing simultaneously has roots in both philosophical reflections on possible worlds and in contemporary philosophical cosmology. But it's become a major theme in recent popular films, such as the 2023 Oscar winner, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, which our first speaker, my colleague, Dr. Brian Clayton. Is Brian here? No, he's not here. He's guarding the door. Okay, anyway, my colleague, Dr. Brian Clayton, spoke on that on Monday night in conjunction with the classic Christmas film, It's a Wonderful Life, and which our speaker tonight will be addressing as well. Sorry, that was a really complex sentence, wasn't it? So I started by telling you about Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And Dr. Clayton addressed that on Monday, and the speaker tonight will be talking about it as well. That's an example of multiverse films, as well as movies in the Marvel Universe, which our speaker tomorrow night will address. So you want to be sure to come back for that. What motivates cinematic interest in alternate realities, especially at this particular historic moment? Do multiverse and alternative reality films reflect our hopes for better lives than those we inhabit now? Do they concern fears of possible scenarios that might follow as an implication of modern culture and technology? Or something of a number of other possibilities? Our speaker tonight will address that question by putting this year's Oscar winner, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, into dialogue with a modern author well known for the view that reality is absurd, Albert Camus, and with Koholeth, the speaker, or Ecclesiastes, the author of the book Ecclesiastes, The author, I might say, of a book that many might say is the gloomiest book in the Bible. That's Ecclesiastes. And as a matter of fact, a book that many non-philosophers might think should not have made it into the canon of sacred scripture. I mean, a lot of people find Ecclesiastes a difficult book, let's say. Our speaker who's going to address this is Robert K. Johnston. He is Senior Professor of Theology and Culture at Fuller Theological Seminary in Pasadena, California. He has degrees from Stanford University and Fuller Seminary and a PhD in religion from Duke University. He's an accomplished teacher and academic administrator. And despite the busy schedule that doing that sort of thing implies, he's managed to author and co-author a number of books on theology, biblical studies, and Christian spirituality. Particularly interesting for our purposes in connection with our series is that Johnston is the author, co-author, and co-editor of a number of books on religion, spirituality, film, and popular culture, including, I'll give you a short list, Useless Beauty, which like tonight's talk uses Ecclesiastes as a lens for interpreting film. The intriguingly titled Don't Stop Believin' Pop Culture and Religion from Ben-Hur to Zombies. Makes you want to rush out and buy a copy immediately. Great topic, great title. And the more recent God in the Movies. I'm very excited to hear what Professor Johnston has to say tonight. Let's welcome Robert K. Johnston to the Faith, Film, and Philosophy series.
Thanks for coming. Hopefully we'll find something a little more positive about the book of Ecclesiastes. Over the last decade or so, the multiverse has moved from the fringes of Western culture to the center. Not only because of scientific advancement, particularly theoretical physics, but it also is thanks in significant ways to the universe of Marvel movies, to you. Possibility to live in a cosmos with multiple universes is not only becoming a central topic for discussion in university physics departments, but it now pervades popular culture as well, even if most scientists don't much like what Marvel has done with the topic. There are multiple definitions of the multiverse. We heard one a minute ago. It's more a group of ideas than a coherent theory at present. But we might say for our purposes here that the concept of a multiverse proposes that there are an infinite number of universes that exist side by side along with the universe we live in. Sure. Oh, that'd be fine. Can you hear me better now? Thank you. These all have their origin in that fraction of time just before our universe's Big Bang, which occurred billions of years ago. Though physicists do not believe that we can ever access directly these other universes, there are several lines of argument that seem to support the idea of a multiverse. Quantum mechanics, with its understanding that events can only be described in terms of possibilities, suggests that reality might splinter off and create new universes where all possible alternate events happen. If in one universe, for example, you decided to speed through a light that was turning red, in another universe, that means that somebody slammed on their brake. And if you think that's a crazy idea, perhaps, but Max Tegmark, a theoretical physicist at MIT, is a leading advocate of such an explanation, arguing that everything that could in principle have happened here did in fact happen somewhere else. Many believe the multiverse has happened because of cosmic inflation. The theory that in the instant before the Big Bang, our universe expanded exponentially, radically inflated, the energy igniting a hot fireball of particles and radiation process. And that cosmic inflation happened 13.7 billion years ago. Tellingly, Daniel Scheinhardt and Daniel Kwan, the writer-directors of this year's Oscar winner, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and who call themselves the Daniels, explained that their multiverse movie was inspired by both the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics and the idea that cosmic inflation created infinite bubble universes. So here, science and popular culture have come together. Let's just watch. You're going to punch something for me, aren't you, David? Let's watch 2 minutes just for you to get a feel of the movie. Did you hear that? Many, if most physicists today believe the multiverse is likely, but there's certainly no current scientific support for such verse jumping, something central to everything, everywhere, all at once, as well as being a staple in the Marvel universe, isn't it? In fact, to travel between our cosmos' universe and another universe scientifically would be cataclysmic, according to current projections. In other words, there are no wormholes that are possible for either Spider-Man to join, what's his name, Miles Morales, and there's no wardrobes for Lucy to get us into Narnia. But such metaphoric or artistic license is necessary if the Spider-Man is to be used in our culture's storytelling. Somehow characters need access to those alternate realities, or we just have two parallel stories. The reasons for the importance of the multiverse in our culture today can be debated, but let me give two. One sociological, the other psychological. Following COVID, might not be clinically depressed, but we often find ourselves unable to concentrate or to feel comfortable about settled with our life. The reality is too many of us, most of us here, lead fractured lives. Perhaps that helped explain sociologically why such metaphorical or artistic universe jumping has proved so compelling. Phil Lord, who co-wrote Spider-Man Into the Multiverse or Into the Spider-Verse, says, "I think we're living multiple lives in parallel dimensions all the time. We're living an online life or lives, then we're living a work life that's on a screen. Then there's a home life, then one with your friends. Trying to resolve these things is something we're all thinking about all the time." Besides this sociological reason, there might also be a psychological one. Whether because of nature or nurture, we can argue that, we feel drawn to exploring possibilities that have passed us by or are yet to be. What might have resulted if just one thing had happened differently or one choice had been made differently? The multiverse provides us access to our potential other selves. We're storytellers, and as such, we're drawn to imagining ourselves in a range of stories. So if any of you were here to see the movie Run Lola Run a couple nights ago, that's what was going on there. You have the same story told 3 times, and you learn from one or the other of those, don't you? But in fact, you kept punching the button like a video game, an arcade game, until the answer came out right. Multiverse movies have simply ramped up such storytelling, adding more alternatives, more sci-fi, more spectacle. There are endless possibilities, don't there? Of course, not all multiverse movies are able to carve out these deeper connections. Many studios have used the multiverse simply as a plot device to bring back a hero that got killed in the last movie, or to substitute a younger or more diverse characters, or to alter the trajectory of a plot line that a previous screenwriter didn't write so well. The multiverse seems at times simply to be a tool in the hands of a storyteller. But when done correctly, when done right, when the connection is made with its audience, the multiverse proves powerful, both culturally and aesthetically. And there's no better movie for us to think about than that Academy Award winner, Everything Everywhere All at Once. How many of you saw the movie? Wonderful. So I'll explain a little bit for the few that you didn't, but for most of you, this will be reminding you of what you've seen. The movie tells the story of a Chinese family whose wife runs a laundromat where they live upstairs. Driven by her immigrant's dream of a better life, the American dream, Evelyn's hopes have been soured by the mediocrity of her life. Something made all the worse by an unfeeling IRS agent, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, a judgmental father, an angry daughter. Consumed by the mundane, Evelyn doesn't even have time for her sweet husband, Wayman. It's after this extended setup, almost a half hour, of a dysfunctional family, that Evelyn is challenged by what seems to be her husband, Wayman, but actually is Alpha Wayman from another universe. Alpha Wayman wants Evelyn to save the cosmos by defeating Jobu Tupaki, a malevolent force throughout the universe, which in our universe, throughout the multiverse, but which in our universe happens to be Evelyn's daughter, Joy. In the 90 minutes that then follow, audiences experience a helter-skelter mad dash through a host of bizarre, humorous, sometimes gross worlds as Evelyn tries to save the cosmos. So we see Waylon fighting successfully with his fanny pack as a nunchuck, a chef with a raccoon under his hat, a takeoff on the movie Ratatouille, an alternate universe IRS agent playing the piano with her feet because her fingers are hot dogs, 2 talking rocks, and still an alternate universe that doesn't support life, and on and on. However, these ridiculous multiverse mini plots never lose the movie's focus in service of its central question: what is the meaning of Evelyn's and her family's life in this universe? The absurd is not the point, but only serves the point. What is the point is the need for each family member to understand that their life is not a problem to be solved, but is a gift to be enjoyed. We need not produce meaning. We are meaningful. As the movie ends, Joy still wants to leave the family. Her grandfather is still judgmental, telling his daughter to just let the granddaughter go. However, Evelyn won't let her. Having discovered new strength in herself, she says to her father, "How could you let me go? How on earth did you do it so easily?" And Evelyn tells Joy, "I still want to share life with you. I will always want to be with you." The film's answer to the mystery of life is the paradoxical title to part 3 of the movie, All at Once. Nothing matters, but everything matters. The paradox is central. Laughter, raccoons, Wayman's smile, hands holding each other, a kiss, all are part of the final scene. The Wangs are a family, even if the IRS agent is still a problem. Rather than deny the multiverse's relativizing of life significance, the Daniels brilliantly make the problematic the foil against which life's fragile beauty shines even more brightly. From the disappointment of part 1, a laundromat and a family at odds with them, to the infinity of the possibilities of part 2 as Evelyn goes into the multiverse, the movie ends with an appreciation of the Wangs' small corner of our universe in part 3. There's a battered optimism to the movie, so much so that tears are common. Did any of you cry? However, it's life is meaningless, absurd, surely, but it's also simultaneously meaningful, wonderful. What we're doing tonight, it's useful for us to consider more closely how the multiverse functions in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Let me suggest 4 aspects that seem relevant, each corresponding to one way of looking at or parsing the story. Perhaps some of you in the theology and or religion and film class are doing this, I don't know. But I look at a story in terms of its tone, its atmosphere, its characterization, and its plot. And depending on the story, one or another of those can be the source, the center of power and meaning in that film. Sometimes all 4 are relevant, as they are here. Take tone. How would you talk about the tone of it? As I think about it, humor is key to the success of this movie. We laugh when characters turn up with hot dogs for fingers, have to play the piano with a toe. Or when the IRS agent played by Jamie Lee Curtis is simply deadpan in her interaction with Evelyn. We laugh when one of the universes is built off of Evelyn's mispronouncing as raccoon, the movie, which was actually Ratatouille. So that in another universe, a raccoon manipulates the chef like the rat did in that Pixar movie. Or when Jobu has outlandish costume after outlandish costume, I think that she'll win the prize as the best costumer, surely. Many of those costumes with an everything bagel or a hat. As Julie Andrews sings, a cup full of sugar makes the medicine go down. And the Daniels get this. Rather than treat the multiverse simply as a serious scientific hypothesis that threatens to undercut life's meaning, or rather than bog down in a story about generational differences between mother and daughter, Everything Everywhere All at Once creates space for all viewers by portraying life's absurdity and portraying it absurdly. I don't think any of you would debate that, would you? Nonetheless, the movie is also wrestling with a serious topic. Does life have meaning? And if so, what is it? In posing the question, the filmmakers use the multiverse to encourage our reflection. The multiverse pervades everything in the movie. It's the background for everything else. It's the given. The term I use is it's its atmosphere. Thus the title, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Its seeming relativism turns joy into a nihilism. Its presence threatens Wayman's niceness. If everything is allowed, then nothing would seem ultimately to be of any matter. Vanity of vanity. All is vanity. Why should Evelyn care? And yet she does. Why should Wayman simply be nice? Yet he is. In Everything Everywhere All at Once, the multiverse provides the backdrop against which the Daniels explore whether life has meaning, and if so, what is it? In a typical absurdist fashion, the Daniels use as their chief symbol what? The everything thing. So let's watch again.
This is so complicated, it takes two people to figure it out.
Like I said, she's not.
Created that scene as they were making the movie. It worked so well that they went back in and afterwards and altered the script to make the bagel that central symbol. And it functions well. Joy, the colorfully dressed Jobu Tupaki, wily force of malevolence, says to her mom, I got bored one day and I put everything on a bagel. Everything, my hopes and dreams, my old report cards, every breed of dogs. And it collapsed in on itself. When you really put everything on a bagel, it becomes this. It's the truth, nothing. Feels nice, doesn't it? If nothing matters, then all the pain and guilt from making nothing of your life goes away. Sucked into the bagel. Multiverse calls everything into question. However, nihilism isn't the final answer for the family or for the movie, is it? Perhaps what has been commented more about this movie than anything else is the characterization. And in particular, how the actors picked to play the parts mirror in their own lives the struggle within the movie. So that the actor playing Wayman, Ki Hugh Kwan, was the accomplished child Asian American actor short round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. But when he became an adult, there were very few Asian American male parts for films in Hollywood. And after just a very few roles in the 90s, for 19 years, he got nothing. He was irrelevant. Few roles were written for him. As with Wayman, despite his positive spirit and giftedness, Kwan was simply ignored. That is, until Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. For his role in the movie as someone totally ignored, Kwan received a standing ovation at the Oscars, as well as an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Does life imitate art, or art life? Given his life story and his role as Wayman, Time magazine, of all things, recognized Kwan as one of the 100 most influential persons in the world in 2023. Time believed we could learn from Kwan about life and its meaning. Similarly, and perhaps more profoundly, Michelle Yeoh, who plays Evelyn, had been relegated through much of her career to second-tier martial arts movies where her physical skill was demanded. She actually, like Tom Cruise, did all of the stunts herself. But in Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, Evelyn does more. Deeply dissatisfied with the lack of meaning in her own life, her choices not seeming to work out. She's not living the American dream. Her anger is front and center as she takes stock of her life. But then she's called to save the multiverse. Exposed to a pool of alternate Evelyn, infinite web of branching paths that might have been taken. And she discovers an Evelyn who is stronger, richer, healthier, happier. She meets herself as a glamorous Hong Kong movie star, master chef with strong knife skill, an advertising sign twirler, a Beijing opera star, a kung fu disciple, as well as a piñata and a talking rock in a lifeless human. With so many different roles to play, Yeoh is finally able more fully to use her formidable acting skill. All at once, the wide range of acting jobs denied to her over the years are open to her, and she simply excels. It's not just Evelyn whom the audience cheers, but it's Michelle Yeoh as well. Again, the Academy proved wildly appreciative of Yeoh's performance, giving her a standing ovation. She again won Best Actor for her role. Again, art imitating life. As we watch, is it Evelyn or is it Michelle? It's both. Finally, after considering the film's tone, atmosphere, characters, let's turn to its plot. The movie's plot turns out to be not primarily about meaninglessness, given the multiverse, but meaningfulness simultaneously. It's not just about everything everywhere, it's also about all at once. Let's again look now at the ending 3 minutes of most of the movie.
Doesn't make sense. Evelyn, 别说了，够了。
Let her finish.
So what we might find in our lives might only be a few specks. Joy is brutally honest. With Evelyn, that's enough. We come to cherish these specks, even in the helter-skelter of life. Wayman is right. Kindness is a better way. If Evelyn can throw Google eyes at her enemies while hugging them, so can we. We should laugh at life's raccoons. Life is often silly, ridiculous, but it's also sweet, sentimental. Nothing we can do ultimately matters. As Jabu says, everything, it all goes away eventually. We can't produce meaning by our own effort. Yet, we can accept our portion in life. We can work with all our might doing laundry and taxes and love our family. We can be kind to others. Problems will remain, but love and kindness while engaging life are the way forward. We'll always have the IRS. Death and taxes are inevitable. However, that doesn't mean that nothing matters. Absurdity of absurdity, all is absurd, and yet we can choose love. Despite its foray into the multiverse with all its splashiness and dizziness, the movie is actually a mother-daughter intergenerational movie about the difficulty in learning to accept and love one another despite our different values, experiences, orientation. When all is said and done, the movie proves to have a very traditional plot. It's to the filmmaker's credit that the sentimentality and predictability work so well. I would argue that this small, traditional, immigrant, intergenerational family story works well for most of us in this room because of the zaniness of the extended multiverse that's in the middle. The multiverse allows the film to escape being maudlin, or perhaps better, to be maudlin, fearfully sentimental. Some of us cry. It works that way, and the audience doesn't reject it because of the absurdity, the zaniness that is also there. The frenetic chaos of the multiverse works because it's anchored in the family's struggle to find meaning in life, a family that's not that much different from any of us. So it's a two-way conversation. The multiverse helping the family drama anchoring the multiverse. The Atlantic, in its podcast, says it well. The essential magic of the movie is that the ridiculous multiverse plot is in service of the everyday story, and vice versa. In Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, the multiverse becomes a carrier of primary meaning, a deeply affecting metaphor, a metaphor particularly suited for the Asian American immigrant experience, but also one in its absurdity and chaos that resonates with many of us. It's what we all feel. The multiverse functions for the Daniels as a gigantic symbol of life's vanity, its absurdity, which paradoxically throws viewers back on the need for kindness and love. although life might present itself as absurd, we can also choose to engage it despite its uncertainty. It seems trite to say life is about answering the silliness of life with love. But everything, everywhere, all at once does just that. And such a redemptive and sentimental claim works for many, if not most, of its viewers. Now, having made such a claim, having looked at the movie first, let me turn in closing to engage the film, its center of power and meaning, with others who have described life's meaninglessness similarly. In film criticism, we often use an outside perspective, a critical theory, to gain insight into a film story. So some might use feminist theory, queer theory, or post-colonialism, or psychoanalysis to help unpack a movie. But we can also do intertextual dialogue. So in just a few minutes remaining, let me put this text that we saw into dialogue with the writings of two other philosophers, Albert Camus and also Koheleth, the anonymous writer of the Hebrew scripture, Ecclesiastes. For like the Daniels, both of these others struggled with life's meaning, given its absurdity. How many have read anything by Albert Camus? If this lecture were being given in the late 60s and 70s, every one of you would have read something by Camus. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1957, ironically died in his 40s, young 40s, in a car crash. Life is absurd. As with the Daniels, he found the universe to be absurd, irrational, silent. Nevertheless, even in a meaningless universe, he believed we needed to act in a meaningful manner. Our humanity should cause us to rebel, given the injustice and disrespect for the human condition all around us. Rather than numb ourselves from the futility of life with entertainment, eat, drink, be merry, for tomorrow we die, he argued we should acknowledge the hopelessness of our condition, but choose to resist in spite of it. To live was to defy futility. It seems to me that also is Evelyn's eventual stance, given the multiverse that she experiences. And it's also Wayman's. Joy had hoped her mother or father could show her something that would refute the meaninglessness of our universe. Having fallen into a universe that was inhospitable to life, the mother and daughter, Evelyn and Jobu, become talking rocks. Do you remember the sequence? It's wonderful. Joy tells her mom, small, stupid human. It's like our whole deal. For most of our history, we knew the earth was the center of the universe. We killed and tortured people for saying otherwise. That is until we discovered that the earth is actually revolving around the sun, which is just one sun out of millions. And now look at us trying to deal with that fact that all of that exists inside of one universe out of who knows how many. Every discovery is just a reminder we're all small and stupid. And who knows what great new discovery is coming next to make us feel like even smaller pieces of shit. I've been trapped like this for so long. experiencing everything. Absurdity of absurdity, all is absurdity, yet when joy adopts a nihilism given the multiverse, believing that eventually it'll just all go away, Evelyn refuses to let joy go. Although joy might be stubborn, aimless, and a mess, just like her mother, Evelyn loves her and wants to be a mother. Stop calling me Evelyn, she tells Joy, and she reaches out to hold her. Joy tries to resist, but there's a tear also that's coming down her cheek. It doesn't make any sense, but Evelyn wants Joy with her. The movie ends with laughter, a raccoon, and a kiss. Absurdity may be king, writes Camus, but love saves us from it. Camus' best known essay is on the myth of Sisyphus. Do you remember the myth? A metaphor for the absurdity of life. Sisyphus was someone who chose to push a boulder up a hill, knowing that it would come back and roll over him, and he would need to start again. Here for Camus is the human condition. There's nothing we can do to change its constraints. Death and taxes are constant. Nevertheless, there remains the need for what he called a stubborn humanism. Given the silence of the world, unintelligent, indifferent, we must choose to love as an act of rebellion. Even if life remains pointless and futile, we must continue to live. Life's futility, its absurdity, is also a central motif for the writer of Ecclesiastes. Though, as with Camus and the Daniels, that's not the end of the story for Koheleth. The anonymous author of this book in Hebrew scripture calls himself Koheleth, or the teacher philosopher, the assembler of people to teach them. If one realizes life's meaninglessness, argues Koheleth, we paradoxically can see its meaningfulness. He believes that all life is absurd and joy in life is both good and possible. There's both a negative evaluation and a positive call. Though life might be useless, a living dog is better than a dead lion. In making that paradoxical case, vanity or absurdity is the framing device. It's the atmosphere. It's the given. He begins and ends the little short book. Vanity of vanity, all is vanity. It's that which gives Ecclesiastes its unique character. Hebel is the word that in Hebrew that he uses. The classic definition in English is vanity. It really has two clusters of meaning, either absurd, useless, empty, meaningless, or fleeting, ephemeral, fragile, a chasing after wind. When a Hebrew would hear that word, that Hebrew would hear both. Repeated by Koheleth any number of times, a huge number of times in this short little book, Hebel is the key to unlocking the book's deepest convictions. Similar to Everything Everywhere All at Once, where the multiverse and its primary symbol, the everything bagel, lead the Wong family to discover the true portion of life. For those familiar with Ecclesiastes, you no doubt have already recognized that I've used that in my discussion of the movie already. For like the movie, Koheleth believes life to be absurd. Didn't take the multiverse to make him aware of that. He wrote long before the multiverse was au courant, but a careful observation of creation and a grounding in the first 12 chapters of Genesis was enough. According to the biblical sage, if you believe life is a problem to be solved, you will fail. Rather, it's a fragile gift to be appreciated and enjoyed with others. His paradoxical view of life finds our attempts to create meaning in life, to somehow pull ourselves up by the bootstrap, is meaningless. Nevertheless, life is also meaningful. Like the Daniels, he has a battered optimism. Running out of time. If you had more time as you were looking at the book of Ecclesiastes, he gives at least 3 reasons why life is absurd. It's amoral. You don't know whether the right person wins or not. It's unknowable. Even though God has created it, God seems to be silent, and it's a mystery, and we all die. Amoral, unknowable, short, the perfect trifecta. Life's meaninglessness is simply a given. Certainly that seems to be true for both Evelyn and Joy. Their journey into the multiverse only confirms this judgment, even while their journey also pushes them beyond their understandable pessimism and cynicism. It's Evelyn who first finds, through her experience of the multiverse, reason to accept kindness and love as her small portion of life in the United States, her family, and her wandering. Joy, even given the irony of her name, struggles until the end to find her portion of life. It seemed but a speck. Nevertheless, even Joy seems to tear up at the end, and her parents show their love for her. Central to Evelyn's conversion is the spotlight that shines through the multiverse on her family and the laundromat. Evelyn's foray into the multiverse helps her see Wayman for who he is, someone who has chosen kindness over fighting as his strategy. When Wayman says, in another life, I would have liked just doing laundry and taxes with you. Dr. Ringe wrote an article also on this movie and Ecclesiastes, and he calls this the most romantic line in cinematic history. He's probably being facetious. Great line. In another life, I would have liked just doing laundry and taxes with you. And Evelyn can finally hear him for who he is. He gives her husband a hug. As Koheleth had recognized 2,500 years earlier, such is her portion in life. It's to be valued and cherished. Evelyn's encounter with the meaninglessness of the multiverse paradoxically allows her to see her family in a new light, as Koheleth also came to believe, quote, I know there's nothing better for us than to be happy and enjoy ourselves. As the Daniels end their movie, we see hands being held, husband and wife being reconciled, the couple kissing, a tear appearing in Joy's eyes, the family of three finding a new strength. Nothing matters. The family is sure about this than ever. Joy is correct. Eventually, it all just goes away. Yet, the few specks they have been given as their portion are to be cherished while they're present. This also is Koheleth's advice. Chapter 9, verse 7 following. Go, eat your bread with enjoyment. Enjoy life with the spouse whom you love all the days of your vain, absurd, futile, useless, ephemeral life. Because that is your portion in life. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. Taxes and laundromats, for there's no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom or shield to which you're going. Final footnote, worth noting in closing, the difference between Koheleth and both Camus and the Daniel. For Koheleth, unlike the others, bases his optimism in a creator God, not simply in the human creature. Both stances, those of Koheleth and that of the Daniels, demand a faith in something beyond life's demonstrated absurdity. While the Daniels, like Camus, find in the nature of the human a positive call, Koheleth turns to the creation theology of the Hebrew Scriptures, finding God, even if he remains mysterious and silent, to have created us, and thus to have given us innate value. Basing his reflection on the first 11 chapters of Genesis, he says, we can eat our bread and enjoy our drink and our wine with a merry heart. For God has long ago approved what we do. However, while Ecclesiastes minds a religious impulse in writing what he does, the Daniels seem rooted instead simply in a human sympathy, rooted in human sympathy. In one of the many interviews that they've had, one of the Daniels talks about him being a Christian until he was an adult and giving it up. But there's that faith that then is transferred from God to those in God's image, to the human. And that continues for him. Just as it did for Camus, who said, we're all in this soup together. It's not eternity written in our hearts which motivates Evelyn and Wayman. Though mystery predominates, though humankind cannot know, though evil too often prevails, though we will all be forgotten, Koheleth nevertheless believes we can enjoy our portion in life, for it's a gift from God. The question for us all is, which avenue of faith seems best suited for the life that we experience? That's surely for another lecture, maybe one out of that Jesuit tradition in which Gonzaga was founded. Thank you.